Hello, everyone. My name is Murtada Nassif, and I'm here to present my work, Network Aware Adaptive Semantic Image Transmission in Edge to Cloud Communications, under the provision of Dr. Ahmed Rifai and Dr. Sylvester Awagi. For today's agenda, I'll explain the motivation of this work and its contribution, the proposed model of this work, problem formulation, system setup and results analysis, and conclude the presentation with few future remarks. The motivation behind this research stems from the fact that modern systems face data proliferation. The increasing demand for higher data transmission volumes exceeding 336 exabytes and forecasted to double in 2030, along with the demand for reduced latency times for applications like VR, cloud gaming, remote surgical procedures, and autonomous systems. This high demand places a burden on the physical network systems that will need to be addressed, and one approach is semantic communications. We need communication systems that transmit the meaning of the data and not the sheer number of raw bits overwhelming the network links. In the recent years, semantic communication has evolved from language centric systems like adaptive universal transformers into deep joint source channel coders JSCC for images such as Deep JSCC and Swin JSCC. These models achieved impressive SNR adaptability in wireless environments. However, they remain physically layered focused, adapting to signal quality and not to the dynamic core network conditions that dominate edge to cloud paths. In practice, latency and bandwidth budgets fluctuate significantly even over 5G backhaul links, yet existing semantic coders treat the core as static. Our work addresses this gap by embedding network awareness directly into the semantic encoder, enabling real time adaptation to bandwidth and latency. This effectively shifts semantic adaptation up in the stack from a radio level to core level intelligence. And here, this is our proposed framework, SWIN Network Aware Compressed Communication, SWINNet CC for short. And as the name suggests, we are using the SWIN transformer, and our framework essentially divides a SWIN encoder along with a modulator named NetAware Modulator to be at the edge, while the SWIN decoder is in the cloud. Now, at the SWIN transformer level, it's divided into two parts, patch merging and the SWIN block. Patch merging, it reduces the spatial resolution of the image both at the height and width by 2 times. It concatenates the neighboring 2x2 patches, then applies linear projection to effectively increase the channel depth from C to 2C. And the purpose is to represent data hierarchically, like downsampling in CNN, while learning the context of the image. And this process enables multi-scale feature extraction and efficient computation. For each SWIN transformer block, each SWIN block is the main computation unit. It operates within known overlapping windows, usually 7x7 region. It alternates between a window-based multi-head self-attention, or WMSA, and that captures the local context of the image, while SWMSA, shifted window MSA, enables cross-window information flow between these local contexts. Each block has a layer normalization layer, LN, an MSA or SWMSA, an MLP for feed forward, and a residual connections for stability. The alternation of WMSA and SWMSA helps the model balance between locality and global context efficiently. On the decoder side, the process is symmetric but reversed. Instead of patch merging, the decoder performs patch expansion to reverse the compression process. It doubles the spatial resolution while halving the channel depth at each stage. This reconstructs the original image resolution progressively as if latent features are decoded. Now, the network aware modulator takes the latent representation produced by the SWIN encoder and queries real time telemetry from the current network, specifically bandwidth and latency. Based on these conditions, it dynamically selects the top K most informative channels to transmit and omits the rest. This ensures that only the most relevant semantic features are sent over the link, adapting in real time to available capacity while minimizing latency and bandwidth utilization. Here is the algorithm of the overall system. The edge device encodes the image into latent features, retrieves real-time network telemetry, and dynamically selects the top K most informative channels for transmission. The cloud receiver then reconstructs the image from these features, achieving adaptive low latency and bandwidth efficient communication. For the swing transformer, the encoder maps an input image x into a hierarchical latent representation y, given some parameters phi, while the decoder reconstructs y into x hat, given model parameters theta. Within each stage, the swing transformer alternates between a window-based MSA for local attention and shifted window MSA for cross-window interaction. Each block refines features through layer normalization, WMSA and SWMSA, and MLP, and residual connections, enabling efficient multi-skill semantic encoding and reconstruction. For the net-aware modulator, we devised a log-based mapping between the available bandwidth and the number of latent channels. B is for the bandwidth range that we're interested in. Gamma is a tunable steepness parameter. L is the number of pins, in this case it's 6. And levels is a discrete set of channel budgets. These channel budgets were deemed best when the swing transformer was developed, as it was the most optimized and aligned with the size of the instructions on a GPU. This log-based approach avoids the neural overhead and achieves repeatable and interpretable results. The datasets used in this work were Kodak, CLIC21, and Flickr 2K for the wide variety between low-res and high-res images, respectively. Constraints for the bandwidth and latency in our network simulation, abiding by the 3GPP standards for 5G networks. And to evaluate the performance of our framework, we'll be looking at the link utilization, network throughput, quality after image reconstruction, and the operation times for processing and transmission over the core network. So to start, we're looking at the selection of K channels based on the available bandwidth. The plot shows how the modulator selects the number of latent channels K based on the available bandwidth. It follows a logarithmic policy instead of a linear scaling, which means K grows slowly as bandwidth becomes more available. This creates a smooth, predictable adaptation curve and ensures efficient use of resources across the whole bandwidth range. Here, we see link utilization between 650 and 1000 megabits per second. The masked latent maintains a stable utilization of around 15 to 20% of the available capacity, while the raw and encoded curves drop significantly faster as bandwidth becomes more available. This shows that the SwinNet-CC adapts to network conditions, using smaller payloads when the capacity is tight, and bounding utilization to avoid saturation when capacity is high. Overall, we achieve up to 2.5 times lower utilization than sending uncompressed or just fully encoded images, meaning we move the same information with significantly fewer network resources. At the same link rates, transmitting masked latent achieves up to twice the throughput of raw image transmission. The net-aware modulator adjusts the payload size based on the available bandwidth, so when the network is limited, it sends a lighter latent representation for faster delivery. As bandwidth increases, it widens the latent gradually, using the extra capacity for better reconstruction than an idle headroom. This keeps the frame rate high and stable, showing efficient use of resources across the 5G core bandwidth envelope. This figure shows the image reconstruction scores for Kodak, CLIC, and Flickr 2K, as we vary the number of active latent channels K. We see a steep improvement up to around K equal to 96, where the curve flattens, meaning SwinNet-CC reaches near lossless reconstruction using only half the available channels. Flickr 2K peaks around 0.985, Kodak around 0.983, and CLIC21 slightly over 0.967. Mostly because of its pre-compressed web textures. Even under aggressive masking, quality stays above 0.89, which is visually acceptable for 2K content, and in short, the model preserves structural fidelity while transmitting a fraction of the latent data, showing strong semantic compression efficiency. Now looking at the latency result for the Flickr 2K dataset, at 650 megabits per second, raw frames take about 0.39 seconds to send, while the masked latent completes in roughly 0.10 seconds. At 1 gigabits per second, raw latency drops to around 0.26 seconds, but masked latents remain far faster, 3 to 4 times lower overall. Across the full 10 to 1000 megabits per second range, the reduction can reach nearly an order of a magnitude. Practically, that means SwinNet-CC sustains a sub 100 millisecond one-way latency at high bandwidth links, comfortably within real-time edge cloud limits. So in summary, SwinNet-CC brings intelligence into the codec itself, adapting its transmission to real-time bandwidth and latency. It achieves up to 85% lower latency while maintaining near-perfect image quality, proving the efficiency of semantic-aware communication. For future work, we extend this framework to multimodal data and exploring federated and continual learning for adaptive, privacy-preserving edge deployment. Together, these steps move us closer to scalable, low latency, and intelligent edge cloud systems. Thank you for listening to my presentation.